has continued to participate in politics and governance at different levels. Please welcome with me His Excellency Senator Sani Rufai Yerima, the former governor of Zamfara State, and today I hope is going to give us a perspective of the situation of Nigeria and what we need to do to move Nigeria forward. Excellency, you are most welcome to the African Leadership Group, the Nigerian Leadership Series. My name is Pastor Itwa Igodalo. I chair the African Leadership Group and also the Rescue Nigeria Initiative. Also joining me today are executives of the African Leadership Group, my Vice President, Pastor Sonny Enebi, and also my second Vice President, Jumoke Akintaylor. Sonny is in Ireland, Jumoke is in California. So we have guests from all over the world on the platform, most of them Nigerians, a few non-Nigerians, and a few expatriates. Everybody is concerned about Nigeria and worried about the state of affairs. And what we're doing at the African Leadership Group is to engage as many people as possible from across Nigeria and in the diaspora, and even some expatriates, so that we can put together as much thought, thinking as possible in offering solution to the Nigerian situation. First of all, to hear from the perspective of different people, how they feel, what they feel. Secondly, to see what roles they would like to play in national development. And thirdly, to get suggestions from them as to how to move Nigeria forward. Our sister organization, the Rescue Nigeria Project, is working assiduously on peace dialogues and how to build peace and consensus in Nigeria. And I'm sure that you will honor our call to discuss on that specific subject matter at a later stage sometime this year. Let me put it out there also that if you do know of any other people within your self-influence that you think we should engage to discuss the Nigerian question and the Nigerian issue, we'll be very happy for introductions to them and engagements with them. And I really must thank my friend and my brother, Akin, who made this possible at this time and made this connection possible. So thank you very much, Excellency, for coming. Maybe people know you, but just to set a balance and set a pace, you may want to tell us a few more things about yourself, or maybe things that people do not know. Please go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Yeah.
You need to unmute yourself.
Is it unmuted?
Yeah, it's now unmuted, so you can.
Okay, thank you. That's all right. Hello?
Go ahead, sir.
So what do you want me to do now?
Just
to introduce myself.
Yes, give us a
okay. So as you already introduced me, my name is Senator Ahmad Rufai Sani Yerima Mbakura, former governor of Zamfara State. And I served Zamfara State for 8 years, and I had 12 years in the Senate, 3 terms. And now, as a member of APC, we elected Senator Asuaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a president. So I'm a member of APC.
Very, very good. What do you think? What's your opinion of our situation in Nigeria right now? What has gone right? What has gone wrong? What are the circumstances? And what are your thoughts on how we can create the Nigeria of our dreams?
Well, you see, in the first place, Nigeria is a blessed country. It's a religious nation, a nation of comprising Muslim and Christians. And we are lucky we have now democracy in place. Over the years, we have successive government from Shagari regime when the democracy started, or from 1960, Sardauna area, Tafawa Balewa up to Shagari, and then after Obasanjo came in, he handed over to Yar'Adua, and from Yar'Adua to Jonathan, and to General Muhammadu Buhari, and now, inshallah, to Chief Asuwaju Ahmad Bola Tinubu. I believe that every successive government tried its best, but we have been facing a lot of challenges to do with security, poverty, and has to do with economic, socio-economic development of Nigeria. What we need to do is to come together, because developing democracy is the only way that Nigeria can move forward. If we have a National Assembly, judiciary, and executive that are coordinating together, that will come up with a robust political and socio-economic development program agenda for Nigeria, where the whole regions, both northeast, southeast, south, and southwest, and north central, can believe that they have leadership that is justiciable, that take care of their interests. What the challenges we are having now is that not every Nigerian believes he's a citizen of Nigeria, because people talk about their region. So we need to develop the concept of citizenship in order to come together and move the nation forward. We need to address the issue of insecurity and the issue of poverty. These are the two major areas that I believe that every government that wants to move this country forward will need to address. Luckily, we are understanding ourselves as far as religious tolerance is concerned. Both Muslims and Christians are already talking. The issue of religious misunderstanding, mistrust, is getting, a sin of the past. So I understand. I believe that we need to come together as a country and believe that we are citizens of Nigeria. Once we develop the concept of citizenship, then I think all other things can follow.
Do you actually think that religious intolerance is getting a thing of the past? I think it was a tool that was largely used in the last elections. And also a few people think the outcomes of those elections were not quite appropriate, and that INEC especially did not do what it's promised to do. What's your opinion?
You see, that is why I said religious intolerance is becoming a sin of the past, because the Asuwaju is a Muslim and his deputy or vice is a Muslim. You see, we need to have a Nigeria where Christians, Muslims will believe that they are all created by God. And I'm sure that every one of us believes that God cannot make mistake. If you believe that you as a Muslim, no other person, Jew or Hindu or Christian, should not live, then you believe that God has made mistake by creating them. If you are a Christian and you believe that Muslims should not exist, then you believe that why should God make them? Why should he create them? We all believe in God. And that's why I said this understanding that is increasing in Nigeria. In the past, you have crises over and over between one community and another, a religious crisis. But I think from this election, we have seen that people are beginning to understand that it's not a matter of religion. Let's look at the quality of individuals. Let's not look at where they came from. And the politicians are beginning to understand that you cannot use religion to achieve your objective. So I'm sure that gradually these religious sentiments are going down. With this election, if this government can do very well, can perform creditably well, carry every region along, I'm sure, like I said, we will go over the religious problem that was facing Nigeria in the past.
Well, a lot of people think that if any of the parties had done a Christian ticket, a lot of the people who are Muslims would not have accepted it. It would have been up in arms. That it's looking more like tolerance, maybe more from the Christian side. I don't know what you think about that, but that's an opinion. And then secondly, you are supposed to speak also on the elections and the debates as to whether the elections were really credible, free and fair. Some people think they were. Some people think that the INEC did not do its job, did not upload beavers. A lot of, what do we call, the forms were mutilated, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. I don't know what your own experience and your thoughts are.
Well, if you look at Nigeria history in the past, you find that there were government of both Christian in place, although it was in the military era, where the president was a Christian and his vice was a Christian. For example, during Obasanjo time, before Obasanjo, General Gawan, you find that, with this election, current election, the most important issue is the role of INEC. Some people believe that INEC did not do well. But we are developing democracy. We are not a developed democracy. Technology is imported. We didn't develop these technologies. And therefore, there must be some problems here and there. That does not invalidate the election. I think INEC has done its best. What we need to do is to continue to develop ourselves, making sure that we have trust among ourselves, and everybody should try as much as possible. Like I said, the most important thing we need to develop is the concept of citizenship. The citizens of America are called Americans. The citizens of UK are called British, whether they are black or white, or they are Christian or Muslims. But people in Nigeria have sometimes recognized because of the area they came from. But this is the kind of thing that I believe that we should all come together and make sure that we develop the concept of citizenship, where your being citizen of Nigeria is recognized, and your performance and experience and the quality of service and your programs that you sell to the people, to the public, will determine your electability or otherwise. But I believe that the credibility of election will continue to be questionable because we are learning. We are still along the learning curve. But very soon, once we continue to develop our democratic institutions with amendments of electoral acts and constitution, I'm sure we'll get to the point we want to get to.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, it's possible to think that INEC was a little bit inefficient here and there, but some people think that it was deliberate because the other two elections on that day seem to have gone relatively well, and the problem really started with the presidential elections. But nonetheless, this is where we are. I beg your pardon, the other organization is Rebuild Nigeria Initiative, Rebuild Nigeria. I made a slight mistake. So we're where we are now, and I want you to speak a bit more on this issue of citizenship. Why is it that 60 years or 63 years after independence, we're still looking for the Nigerian citizen, and we've not been able to develop this concept of citizenship sufficiently?
You see, because in the past, we have at least understood that and realized the fact that corruption has eaten deep inside the political system of Nigeria, from the electorate to those who are elected. This level of corruption that mitigated the establishment of ICPC and EFCC is still with us, but the system is fighting it until such a time when Nigerians of goodwill Nigerians from all over the world, from diaspora and within Nigeria, come together and fight this problem of corruption. Once there is increased transparency in the system, in terms of banking system, in terms of the introduction of this BVN, bank verification number, and the integration of this number with national identity and the banking system, I'm sure things are getting better. So like I said, we're a developing economy, we're developing democratically, the institutions are being reorganized, and more credible people are participating in the system. Because in the past, in the North, I don't know what happened in the South, even to participate in election, a lot of people do not want to come forward for it. But now with quality of service, quality of participation, you find that things are changing. But the corruption level is still something that Nigerians have to look at and fight vigorously, because that is the only way that we can rediscover ourselves. If without corruption, fighting corruption, the system will not witness the kind of improvement that people are looking at, to the extent that we can call ourselves citizens of Nigeria. We will look, it is in northern Nigeria, not somebody from the Northwest will say that it is now the turn of Northwest to produce president. So he come out and present himself as a representative of Northwest. That has to stop. We should look at the concept of citizenship, develop it, and by the time we all accept the fact that Nigeria is our country, from wherever we come, an Igbo man should aspire, when he lives in Zamfara, to be the governor of Zamfara state, if the constitution allows him to do so. A Yoruba man should go to southeast or south and contest as the governor of that state, if the provision in the constitution allows him to do so. If same persons from the same family can aspire to be both governor and president, as it is obtained in America. So this is the kind of thing that I think Nigerians should be educated to ensure that we achieve the concept of citizenship, and I'm sure all other things will follow.
All right, thank you very much, sir. And I'm glad that you spoke on the subject corruption, and
yes,
to have eaten deep into our fabric. The civil service, people say, is corrupt. The police, people say, is corrupt. The political process, and even this last one, people say was highly monetized and driven by corruption. It's almost as though the person with the biggest wallet was the one who was able to do best in the whole thing. How do you think we can fight corruption in Nigeria, where it has become a culture, where it has become expected, where even people who dare to try and be honest or ethical find themselves kicked out of the system and branded as the corrupt ones? I don't know if you've experienced that before, but I've experienced it in a few places where a man loses his job because he's trying to be honest. How can we, and what are you doing to see that we actually fight this corruption? Because there's a huge cost to corruption, if you ask me.
By developing transparency, by making sure that we develop institutions that will encourage transparency in the administration of the country, the administration of justice, the political process, even personal life. Once we develop transparency by making sure, like for example, this issue of a cashless society is part of the system that will help us in terms of making sure that people are properly monitored. You see, we have Code of Conduct Bureau, where every politician should declare his assets before elected or immediately after he is elected. These kind of institutions have to be developed and they have to be seen working. And so if we can find credibility in terms of employment and appointments, and that is why Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu pledged that he's not going for government of national unity, as some people call it, that is going for government of competence. If he can bring competent people around him, including all these anti-corruption agencies, once you can have people who are bold enough to pursue the ethics of the system, to making sure that there is improved transparency in the entire system, administration of justice, administration of political offices, personal life of individuals are properly monitored. I'm sure that transparency is what is lacking. We need to have a transparent system that will encourage or help the development of the system in a way that once you are corrupt, you will be easily identified. You can find somebody who has just graduated from university and he's posted to an office, and from just small experience, you find him acquiring properties, you have him opening accounts all over the world, and the system will see it. In the past, if you don't have a good position where you make money, your relations will say he doesn't have a good job. But if you find a place where you make easy money, they will say this man is very well, he has gotten a good job. But this is the kind of thing that we have to fight, to ensure that, to tell the people that the good job that you have is the performance you can put, the kind of productivity you can put in the system, so that the country can be developed. And the most important thing is that the religious leaders have to do a lot of work by instilling fear of God in the society. In their churches, in their mosques, they have to preach the fear of God. And I'm sure that once that is done, every person has to do his role. The religious leaders, the political leaders, and the security agencies. But as you said, now if you are traveling from one state to another, and a BIO stops you, he will not ask of your credentials. He will start looking at your car. Then he will now look at the kind of person you are and see how much he can get from you. The police, the security, other security agencies, all these things has to be stopped. And we can stop it by making sure that the system is a little bit more transparent. Inshallah, once we can do that, I'm sure we'll get it right.
Well said, sir, but I don't think our leaders have the political will, as I speak, to do this. Otherwise, a lot of governors and even presidents in the past would have done a lot more. And some of them even have been found at many instances guilty of being corrupt themselves, and so on and so forth. So I don't know how this really is going to work. I don't know if you have any other ideas, or do you? Or...
Yeah, these civil society organizations that are developing is a very good thing in Nigeria. Okay. We are getting more and more civil society organizations and transparency organizations that are looking towards individuals in political offices, and they are even blowing whistle when there is corrupt activity. So I think by the time we have this civil society organization well developed, and get them more involved in the system, and recognize them as people who can help us get out of these corrupt tendencies, I'm sure is one of the way out. With this development of civil society organizations that are coming up in Nigeria, I think things are really getting much, much better.
Okay, let's speak a little more specifically. This new government, you seem to be a very key member of the party, and so on and so forth. Are you going to be taking a position, play a role in the new government, and how do you think this government will perform, sincerely, based on your own reading of the matters on hand now?
Well, you see, Asiwaju was a governor in Lagos State, and I was a governor in Zamfara for 8 years. And looking at his performance in Lagos State, And he not only performed in Lagos State, he was a leader of AD per se. He was one of the leaders in the AD and a leader in the ACN, AC and ACN. And then he was the one that coordinated and led the merger process that brought about the APC and brought the APC government in power and position. I think he has all the experience he requires. What he needs to do is to stick to what he has said, that he's going to come up with a government of competence. He will, the kind of appointments that he will come up with, like, appointing people and put them in key places that is relevant to their background. You don't appoint somebody who is basically a religious person or somebody who has a background in French or English or agriculture and put him and ask him to manage areas that have nothing to do with his experiences. So I think since he says going to come up with government of competent people, it depends on the nature of the people he appoints. You see, president is the head, but the people who work around him determine the performance of his office, his administration. If he has competent people in agriculture, in education, in health, for example, the Constitution of Nigeria has provided that every Nigerian should have access to education. And he pledged in his campaign promises that every Nigerian must acquire education. He's going to make education free as provided for by the Constitution of Nigeria up to secondary school level. And he says going to create opportunity for those people who have completed the education, secondary education, to acquire loans by maybe introducing such agencies like Students' Loans Board so that they can go and educate themselves and come back and be very good members of society. So he has a robust plan. He has a very good plan. What he needs is a group of competent people around him. And I'm sure once he does that, he will be able to achieve the desired objective. And personally, like you said, all Nigerians, including myself, once we are called to serve, every Nigerian should be ready to serve his country and diligently. And I'm sure that the president-elect will look at the competence of the people like he already promised and appoint them as such.
All right, thank you very, very much. If you were going to look at the Buhari administration over this last 8 years, what would be your scorecard for them?
Well, you see, every successive government have some achievements and had their own problems. And Buhari administration tried to address issues such as corruption, issues such as insecurity, and economic development. If you look at security issue, we can say that the government has done well, because when they came in, the Boko Haram issue was the main problem Nigeria was facing. And Boko Haram has occupied most part of Borno State, Yobe State, and some parts of Adamawa State. But today, even in Borno State, they are on the run. So, but on issue of corruption, I will not say that we have done very well. We have done, the government has done its best, but there is still a problem of corruption. The new area of insecurity that's coming up, this issue of kidnapping, armed banditry, is a new development. But I believe that the security agencies are trying their best, but the incoming government has to do more in making sure that this issue of armed banditry and kidnappings are addressed. But Boko Haram, the Buhari administration has done its best, but the corruption issue, as I said, we have to increase issue of transparency in the system. We have to look at issue of code of conduct and making sure that those people who are appointed not only declare their assets, because some people even project how much they are going to get in the office. If they don't have, they have one house, or they don't even have a house, but they will write they have 20 houses, 50 houses, they have investment that they don't have. So in not only making sure that people declare their assets, there must be a system of verifying those assets, those declarations. And to my mind, I think it is better for us to make it a public declaration rather than a secret declaration of asset. Everybody should have access to your declaration. That is that transparency, the issue of transparency is what is lacking in the Nigerian system. We must be transparent. The more transparent the government is, the better the issue of fighting corruption in Nigeria. So I would say that the Buhari administration may have done very well in some areas, but there must be found lacking in some other areas, which this administration should come forward and address.
Right. Thank you. I pray they are listening to you. Well, they should. You are one of them. And you will be able to talk to them and hopefully get Nigeria going forward. You spoke about education, or you mentioned it in passing. We are reputed to have 20 million children out of school, most of them resident in the northern part of Nigeria. And then the issue of girl child education, having girls not being sufficiently educated, also a lot of it in the north. I want you to speak to these two issues, what your thoughts are and what we need to do, because I'm thinking part of Nigeria's problem is our limitation in education, but let me hear you.
You see, there is no government that can succeed without addressing the issue of education. And when I was in office, for example, in 1999, I created Female Education Board when I realized that there is a problem with female education, and created special primary school. I call them focal primary schools for girl child education and secondary school education. And today, if you go to Zamfara, if you look at enrollment of girl child before 1999 and the enrollment between 1999 to 2007 and to date, you find that there is improvement in the number of girl child that are enrolled in schools. There is no alternative to Western education. And people have to be properly educated, not only educated, but properly educated. If you don't acquire Western education, you not even understand yourself. For example, when I came up with the issue of Sharia, people thought that it is going to be a very big problem. When I came up with the issue, I thought it was going to be a very local issue. But in the end, when I started, it was only then that I realized it's not only national, but international issue. And because I know what I want to do, I was opportune to go through Western education to acquire master's up to the level of master in economics. I knew that I was elected under 1999 Constitution, and I knew that I swore to uphold the Constitution. I tried to do everything possible to ensure that I limit whatever law I'm going to pass in the State Assembly within the provision of the Constitution. And you can see that we did it successfully, and there was no problem at all. There was a lot of consultation between us and the Christian faith, including meeting with Khan, meeting with Ladies of Fatima and other churches. But without education, I wouldn't have been able to do what I have done. So I think the level of poverty in the north is so high. This government has to come up with robust programs of agriculture and establishment of small and medium scale industries that will address the issue of poverty. These empowerment programs that the current administration is implementing has to be reviewed and ensure that Aswaju administration will come up with a different direction where agriculture should be able to produce the food that is required by this country within this country, and even produce more food and cash crop for export so that we can generate the necessary foreign exchange. And once you can employ, because even those who have graduated from university, you find that a lot of them are unemployed. So it is only when you make sure that those who have graduated from universities are gainfully employed, that you encourage other people to go into schools. But if in the family you have people who have suffered to educate their children, and they find that these children are becoming liability to them, then they will be discouraged to send the other younger ones to school. So we have to address the issue of poverty vis-a-vis education sector. There is no alternative to Western education. We have to educate our people. We have to educate the society so that we can have a good we can achieve socio-economic development of Nigeria.
Thank you very much. It's very heartwarming to hear you say emphatically that there's no alternative to Western education. And it seems as though some people in the North don't quite agree, especially when you look at the issues of Boko Haram and all that. And let me declare publicly that at ALG, we're going to be working assiduously to look at this issue of education. And if there's ways we can work with you or right on the back of your connection or network there, that will be interesting to pursue. Well, let me ask you.
I'm available for you anytime you want me to work in this direction. It's part of service to my country.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
And we're going to take you up on that. Are you in Abuja or are you in?
Yeah, I'm living in Abuja fully.
Yeah, in Abuja as we speak.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe when next I come to Abuja, I will try and see how we can.
You are most welcome. You are most welcome.
Because we're really, really anxious about Nigeria and getting Nigeria to work the way it should be. Well, let me take you up on this issue of Sharia, because I'm sure some people on the platform are expecting that question. Why did you decide that you wanted to single out Zamfara State to implement Sharia? Why was that an issue at that time? Is there any special reason and what the benefits were?
You see, what people don't understand, most people, including some Muslims, is that Sharia is not a new thing in Islam. It is principle and practice of Islam. It is only overemphasized in some countries where, such as Afghanistan, where some people use Sharia in a way that is not supposed to be implemented. And that is what is causing a lot of problems with it. But every Muslim ambition, a human being that is a Muslim, his ambition is to practice his religion according to the teaching of religion. That is Sharia. That is called Sharia. So Sharia is not a new thing. It's not a different issue. It is it is religion of Islam in practice. So when I started campaigning, even before my campaign, this issue of Sharia has always been coming up in the northern part of Nigeria, even in the southwest. But when I realized that the Constitution of Nigeria has made provision, ample, total provision for Sharia, when the Muslim clerics said they wanted Sharia, I said, yes, I'm going to give you Sharia. At that time, I thought it was going to be a local issue, and I thought my problem would be the faith. So I had series of meetings and consultations with the Christian Association of Nigeria. You see, before my administration, there was what is called Northern Nigeria Penal Code. That penal code is Sharia, but it contains only civil aspects of Sharia. It does not include criminal aspects of Sharia. What I did was to expand that penal code and include the criminal aspect. And when I was passing the law, I said the law is only applicable to Muslims and those who profess Islamic faith. That is, if there is a case between Muslim and Muslim, or Muslim and government, they'll be educated under the Sharia law. Then in the course of interaction with the Christian community, they now discovered that, well, what if there is a case between Muslim and Christian? Then I told them that, well, we have magistrate court, we have higher court, which are not Sharia courts. And then we all agreed that I should pass another law to say that the Christians, if there is a problem between a Christian and a Muslim, it is the Christian that will choose to go to the court that he wants to go to. Because in that discussion, that consultation, some of the Christians said they preferred in some cases, like issue of debt or loans or credit or whatever personal interaction, they prefer to go to Sharia court. Then I say, okay, but I am faced with a problem that a Christian can go to Sharia court, and when he loses his case, he will now say that he has been forced to go to Sharia court. I said, if you agree with me, I will include in the law a provision that any Christian who chooses to go to Sharia court must put it in writing, and there must be a way that Christian Association of Nigeria, which was umbrella body in Zamfara at that time, coordinating the activities of Christian faith, they must know, they must be aware that this Christian decided to go to Sharia court with a Muslim counterpart. And you can see that is why for 8 years, not a single quarrel was there in Zamfara between a Christian and Muslim. There was never a problem between a Muslim. The Christians used to take their cases to Sharia court what involved Muslims if they chose to go to Sharia court. But all this was not known to people, a lot of people. So you only have crises. You had crises in Kaduna, Zango, Katab, but they were not even Sharia based because it's a traditional crisis that has always been coming up between themselves. A small quarrel, they will turn it between Muslim and Christian, they will turn it to religious quarrel. But not only during my time, up to this moment, you never had any problem in Zamfara between Christian and Muslim, because Sharia is properly known to Muslim of Zamfara that it is only affecting the Muslim faith. It has nothing to do with the Christian faith. There is only one issue in the Constitution of Nigeria that cannot be in Sharia. That is the issue of apostasy. Section 38 of the Nigerian Constitution provided that there is total and absolute freedom of religion for every Nigerian. And that freedom includes freedom to worship alone or in community with others, in private or in public, including freedom to change your religion if you want. And we didn't make any provision for that in Zamfara law. We recognize that section because even the religion itself, Islam under Sharia, there is provision that. So you see, it's all lack of understanding, it's lack of knowledge of what the government was doing then. But gradually you can see that it is now a thing of the past. Nobody is arguing, Sharia is no longer a problem in any society in Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much. Nation building roles and responsibilities. That is our title today. I'm sure that in all our conversation we started around, and you may have something specific to say about it. But there was a post on the platform just now, somebody suggesting that all corrupt officials and politicians should be asked to return all the money that they have stolen. My other request to you is that if someone like yourself becomes a champion for religious tolerance and understanding, especially among the Christians and the Muslims and other faiths, I think it will go a long way to begin to assuage feelings on both sides. Not just champion by what you say, but champion also by action and reaching out to the divides and ironing out the misunderstandings, because I think there's quite a lot of misunderstandings for people who all descended from a man called Abraham or Ibrahim. If you can take time to iron out the misunderstandings and the issue of who is a believer, who is not an unbeliever, the references to Jesus Christ and Christianity in the Quran, to assuage the feelings of a lot of people, a lot of them also Muslims, who don't understand, who take this issue of jihad beyond certain levels. Because one of the things we were hearing during the last politics is that this one is a jihad. That's why it's two Muslims on the ticket. It's just that people decided to ignore it and be more tolerant. So I think people like you need to really, really speak up and educate both sides of the divide. You may speak to that also, but also to speak to the topic, nation building, roles and responsibilities, after which we will take questions from the platform. There are quite a few people here taking questions, wanting to ask questions. And my appeal is that let's go straight to the question so that we can take as many people as possible. And let's be very civil about the questions we want to ask. So go ahead, sir.
You see, nation building has to do with development, issue of development. You are not building houses or you build a nation as a house. A nation building and the issue of religion has to do with the relationship between development and religious tolerance. And you see, like I said, there's a very serious need for the religious leaders in both faiths to educate their people on the need to come together and work together and to participate in the democratic processes as Nigerians. You see, and that's why I emphasize the issue of concept of citizenship. A lot of religious leaders are even corrupt because they are using the concept of religion to earn a living. They will come and meet you and tell you that they can pray for you to become president, or they can pray for you to become governor. Either Muslims or Christian, in both faiths, you find these people. I want to give you one practical example. When I was contesting for governorship in 1998, somebody came to me with his son and said, Yerima, I say, yes. I came to see you privately. I said, okay. So we went to the private room and he came with his son. And he said he has something that he can do for me to become governor. That if he does that prayer, if I agree, if I can commission him, I will, and once he conclude that, I'll be the governor of Zamfara State. Then I asked him, I said, this boy that is with you, has he completed the secondary education? He said, yes. I say, okay, very good. At that time, we were going for local government election first, before the state election. I said, you are from a community that is very well known to me, and that I know the person that is likely going to be our councillor. But if you can do that kind of prayer for him, so that we can change our mind and make him the candidate for councillorship and he become councillor, I am ready for you. I can do anything you want me to do for you to make the same prayer for me to become governor. I say, so go and work for him first. When he realized that I know what I was doing, he now just asked me for transport money and I gave him transport money and he left. So we have a lot of these kind of people who are using the ignorance of others, ignorance in religion, ignorance in Western education. If you are not properly educated, you not understand even yourself. I would have accepted it, because I want to be governor. It was not a do or die affair. I knew that I was only going to be governor if I have majority of the votes cast in an election. I know that God can make me governor, but I have to do my best to ensure that I sell my ideas to the people, to the populace, and I have to campaign, but not for religious leaders to come and pray for me to become governor. So you see, religion and development can go along together. The pastors, the sheikhs, the imams, the religious leaders' role is to educate society in fear of God, to bring fear of God into the society, to tell their followers that they have to do right things. They have to obey God, to make sure they worship God the way the God himself designed his way of worship. But a lot of them deviate from that process. And development and nation building, it has to do with socio-economic development of the society. If you look at economic development, you have to look at the indices of poverty. You have to look at indices of price index. You have to look at inflation level. You have to look at the welfare of the society. What is development? You have to know that without eradication of poverty, solving problem of insecurity, you cannot have development. So nation building has to do with issue of socio-economic development. And the role of religious leaders is to make sure that they mobilize the society in the direction of fear of God and uprightness, so that the issue of corruption, in fact, the religious leaders have more role to play in fighting, educating the people on the danger of corruption, because the corruption level that we are having, you just imagine to start thinking whether people really believe in God. They try to have billions of dollars, billions of naira amassed, money that they don't even, will not require, not even their children, but they are still, because of greed, struggling to get more and more and more money. And you know, they are not even investing the money in the society. They will keep this money either at home in cash, stock them in cash, or stock them in their accounts. They are not even investing this money to the benefit of society. So nation building and religious relationship will only lead to development if every member of society is playing the role that is supposed to play.
Thank you very much, sir. Again, I'm going to challenge you to speak a bit more aggressively and more loudly and many more times on this issue of corruption, especially yeah, I'm going to challenge you, especially to the political class, because if you hear the amounts of monies that's been amassed by some people and the issue that they don't even invest it for the benefit of society, I think if the world heard people like you speak more about this, they would take it a lot more seriously. You know, one of the challenges of Nigeria is that people who should be speaking are not speaking. Everybody's afraid, because you're afraid you want to be in the good books of the politicians, you want to be in good books of government, and that way we're losing our responsibility. So I would really, really want to implore you, sir, to do that. And it's one of the things we probably will discuss when we see as to how to run a campaign or have a process of joining forces to make sure that we have a very, very decent Nigeria as best as we can. We're going to be taking some questions now.
Yeah.
From people. But before we do that, we want to launch a poll on the Project Nigeria Challenge. And my second Vice President, Jumoke, is going to be launching that poll just for about 2 or 3 minutes so that everybody on the platform can understand what we're doing. And after that, we'll take questions. We'll probably take a set of 3 or 4 questions each. There's Noyo, there's Anthony, and there's my cousin Charles. We'll probably take those 3 questions each and then take the remaining others. Well, let us launch this Project Nigeria Challenge, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you very much, Senator.
Yeah, most welcome. Thank you.
So we just launched the poll. Good evening, everyone. And what we are asking you to do, there are 10 options, or there are 10 components of Project Nigeria. We want you to select the top 3 that you think is important to you, or the top 3 priorities. So please go ahead and take a few minutes to cast your vote. Thank you.
Can we continue the conversation while they are casting their votes?
Yes, yes, sir. The conversation can continue.
Are you going to roll it down? These are the questions. Right leadership in Nigeria. Is that the challenge? Constitutional review. Do we need to review the constitution? And do we need to scroll up for the 3rd one? And are they going to go into the how are they going to access this?
Everyone should have the poll in right now, and then so some people have started voting. So 2 people have already cast their votes, so everyone has access to this poll.
Okay, so you can scroll down.
Yeah.
So they can scroll up and down to check.
Yeah, they would see
questions.
Yeah.
So
So I'm going to close it so that we can continue.
That's
I don't understand how to do this. How do I answer it?
Also, I guess we can continue as they continue the poll.
Okay. All right. Please continue the poll. All right. Let's take the questions. Noyo, please unmute yourself and ask our distinguished senator your question. Straight to the point. Noyo, unmute yourself, please.
Yes. Good morning or good evening.
Good evening. Good
My name
evening.
Good evening, sir. Senator.
welcome.
I think I
Yes.
saw your name. Thank you for the information you have provided. However, when you
You're
were
welcome.
talking, yes, sir. I listened. You said something about the Muslim candidates, and what I got from you is that that problem doesn't exist any longer because we now have a Muslim candidate. And I want you. I know, and we are all aware of the fear why people felt the way they felt about these Muslim candidates because of the religious intolerance in the country, the things that we have seen, the things that we have witnessed. It's not just coming out from nowhere. It's because of our experiences and the things that we have heard, the things we have seen. A lot of people have died in northern Nigeria, not just northern Nigeria, because of religious crisis. So people naturally should be afraid of having a Muslim ticket as our president and the vice president of Nigeria. I want to ask you a question. Just before the election, 2 or 3 years leading to the election, there was so much talk. We had so much talk about the Islamic, the attempt to make Nigeria an Islamic state. We also had so much talk about the grazing law and having these Fulani colonies in southern Nigeria, which a lot of people kicked against. Now that we have a Muslim ticket as a president and vice president, are these fears not real? Can you tell us a little about the direction that this government will be going to, the direction of this government, the focus when it comes to making Nigeria, from the rumor, everything we are hearing, an Islamic state, the grazing law, having the Muslim, the Fulani colonies in southern Nigeria? What can you tell us? Because that's the fear that people have. Do we have an all-inclusive government that will provide for both southern Nigeria, northern Nigeria, and ensure that everything goes well for us? That's all we are asking for. Yeah. And I think I heard you say also that we've had Muslim president and vice before. It maybe probably during the military time, that was a different dispensation from what we have right now. So just tell us, because you need to let people know. Thank you.
Yeah. You see, what we need is justice, equity, and fairness in employment, appointment, and other processes of governance. Once President-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu can ensure justice, equity, and fairness in making sure that he carries everybody along. Employment, appointment should be based on competence and does not have any regard to religion or the region you came from. Of course, there is federal character principle enshrined in our constitution. We have to look at the federal character principles, make sure that every region is properly represented. He will have chief of staff, he will have SGF, secretaries of government of federal region. He's going to have ministers, about 42 ministers, and he's going to have one minister per state. So I'm sure that Nigeria's fear of Muslim ticket will be addressed by making sure that there is justice, equity, and fairness in the affairs of government, not only in appointment or employment, in the processing of project identification, in the process of implementation of projects, and all areas of development. And even laws that are going to be passed have to be passed based on the need of the country, not based on regional expectation, or but it has to be addressing all the fears of the society. And people don't know that the vice president role is as assigned to him by the president. So even if we have Muslim Christian ticket, if we have a very bad president, he will tilt towards one direction or another, or his society or the other. But what we need is implementation of common programs and activities with making sure that there is justice, equity, and fairness. Once that is done, the issue of Muslim ticket or Christian ticket would have been addressed. And I'm sure Asiwaju Bola Tinubu will do just that. From his antecedents in Lagos, all the appointments he provided, all the appointments, political appointments he made, are not only Yorubas. In fact, he brought people from all shades of life. Even in Yoruba land, he brought people from other states to Lagos because he believes they are competent and they can provide services to the state. For example, Lai Mohammed was not from Lagos. He was from Kwara State. The former governor of Osun, Aribisula, was Osim. He was from Osun State. There are so many instances. So I'm sure this person that we have elected today will address these fears of Muslim ticket by making sure that there is justice, equity, and fairness in the affairs of governance, from appointment, employment, to the processes of identifying projects and programs of government.
We'll wait and see, Excellency. And if it doesn't happen, I will take you up because you've spoken that.
Yes, take me up and I will go and take him up as well. I promise.
All right, that's very good. Anthony and Charles, one after the other, please ask your questions. We'll take these two questions and then you can respond to them at the same time. Anthony, unmute yourself.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I listened to what the guest is saying, and there's certain things there. One, what does he think about the treatment of Christians in northern Nigeria? You know, the problem with Nigeria in this case is like we have different value systems. We keep pretending we are just one value system. It's not true. We have different value systems. And I want to ask anyone in this forum, if you know any mama that treats their young like we do in Nigeria. I've thought about this for decades. I've not come up with an answer. Any mama that treats their young the way we do in Nigeria. Now, coming to the one question here with the election, it seems that the APC members and some other groups prefer to quickly just gloss over, the election as still we're developing, as he said. But I want to state this clearly. Democracy is a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And it's only when that is met that you have a government with the people. So the foundation of democracy is the election. So to gloss over what INEC did is to say we have no democracy. I'm also confident that the judiciary will do justice to Nigerian people. With respect to what happened on February 25, what does he think about, INEC operating like a mafia organization? You could look at what happened in Adamawa State as take a cue from that as to what INEC did on February 25. And how does he think that the Supreme Court in the final analysis will handle this? There's no time for what I want to say, but I strongly believe 99.99% that Tinubu will move from office. I'm very confident of that. But what does he think about that? Given the fact that what happened on February 25 was a big-time mafia operation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can Charles also ask his question? Please unmute yourself, Charles.
You see, what I would say to this is that if somebody belongs to APC in Nigeria today, he will not have complained on election. If somebody belongs to Labour Party, he will definitely have complained on the past election. If you belong to PDP, of course you would say there's a problem with election. Like he said, government is brought about by election. And election has to do with number of votes the winner is able to get at every election. So we have to allow the judicial process to take its course. It is only judiciary now that to determine whether INEC has done well or INEC has not done well, because they have to test the election results at the court. The PDP is already generating the evidences they have. They have already instituted a legal process. The Labour Party has instituted its own legal process, and APC is collecting its own data to defend the election. So we should be patient enough. In democracy, once the results are announced, once the certificate is given to the winner, all he's waiting for is to be inaugurated as the president or governor of a state or president of Nigeria. So I'm sure that as an individual, nobody has the right to evaluate. He can speculate because of the cases in social media or issues raised by individuals, like the issue of Adama he has mentioned. The electoral law stipulates the processes by which a winner will be declared. It has not given any role, any power to the electoral commissioner of that state to declare the winner. So that is why it's now placed under investigation, and eventually he will be prosecuted. So the person that is given the power by law to announce the winner of the election is the only person that will announce the winner, and certificate will be issued to the winner he announced. So I think we should all be patient. Nigerians should be patient enough to allow judicial process to take its course.
Thank you very much. Charles, unmute yourself.
I think I'm unmuted. Good evening, Yerima.
Good evening.
Charles Yori here. How you doing?
Yeah, welcome. Thank you very
Charles
much.
Yori calling you from London.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I ask all the questions, and I'll ask you, my grandfather's name is Sonny.
Yeah, that's good.
It was father's cousin, and he was a senator. He was a senator.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good.
The second part is that people do not know that you are a technocrat. That you were in the central bank, and you were a PAMSEC before you became the governor. Okay. So now let me unveil you as
very well. How are you?
Our question to you. My question to you. Somebody else is talking.
Please mute your mic. Mute. Sorry, go ahead, Charles. Are you frozen, Charles?
Okay, I'm unmuted it. I finally unmuted it now. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, and my challenge is that interesting. I can't talk over them. My challenge is that when you got into the Senate, I knew and I expected you to perform over and above what you did as a governor. You and I were together after the Majors party in Asiwaju's house. But I noticed you didn't say anything at all about this currency design. And you're a central bank governor, you're a central bank staff. I know that stupid agenda, what you did. You didn't say anything on that one. Secondly, when the schools were out, the kids were out of school for such a long time, I expected you to have said something. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to you about these two things because those are two key things that are critical. For me, your position as
you see, I was in the Senate.
Your
in the 8th Senate.
Your position
I left Senate. Yeah, I left Senate in 20.
No. The word Senate, the word senator. You're a senator for life.
I was not in the Senate when the new currency was
designed. You don't have to be there. You're a senator for life.
Yeah, but you see.
You have influence in the Senate. You're a senator for life.
Yes, but you see, government policies.
No.
Once central bank comes up with its policy,
Yes.
you have to watch and see. You see, there are so many comments that were passed, and actually, the governor of Zamfara State, the governor of Kogi State, and the governor of Kaduna State went to court to challenge the actions of central bank governor. And when there are issues in court, you don't have to talk about them. And you see, they succeeded in making sure that the policy was put on hold and until December. And the new government will come in June. By May 29, we'll have a new government. And by that time, the new government will have studied the situation and come up with its own program. So I don't have to talk when it is not necessary for me to talk. But I gave my advice to the relevant authorities that I need to talk to when they requested my advice, even when they didn't request my advice. In fact, the governor of Zamfara did not consult me when he went to court. And I have no reason to go and say, why did you go to court? Because he was already in court. So issues that are in court are not subject for discussions outside the chambers of the National Assembly. Even in the chamber of National Assembly, they say it's prejudice for you to talk on cases that are already in court, because that's a privilege the judiciary has.
All right, no problem at all. Kim Thomas Allison, please go ahead with your question. Unmute yourself, Kim.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Yalla boy,
Hello, you are welcome.
Thank you, sir. My name is Kim Thomas Allison. Yeah, I want to ask just two questions. You are among the youngest governors in 1999.
Yes.
Did that affect some of your decisions, especially the introduction of Sharia law?
Yes.
And almost every data now show that your state, Zamfara, it's a little bit backward despite your, I'm just hearing now that you are a technocrat. Yeah. My second question is, I'm from Northern Nigeria too. I'm worried about the rise in religious extremism, intolerance, so it is almost affecting our coexistence as a nation. The distrust amongst us, the two faiths, as the Christians and the Muslim, is getting bigger. The distrust is getting wider and wider. And I'm wondering in my head, what can we do to live in unity, especially us from Northern Nigeria, among the Christians and the Muslims and others that are not practicing the two major faiths? And that is it, my question. Thank you so much.
It is still, the answer is still education, education. Once people are properly educated, they will not have problem of religious extremism. Because in every phase that I know, I read some portion of Bible, and you read the Quran, you find that there is no compulsion of religion. Even God said you should fear him to the best of your ability. You cannot do what you don't have the capacity to do. You don't have to go and say you have to close prostitutes' houses because the religion said there should not be prostitutes. You have to follow the due process. But if people are not properly educated, they are bound to have this issue of extremism. But a person that is properly educated in Western education sense, you hardly find him to go beyond, because he will reason properly, he will understand the perception of life that he will have will be different from the ignorant members of society. So what I would recommend is that we need to do more investment in Western education in the northern part of Nigeria, especially like somebody raised his point here. And in fact, the issue of girl child education. Once we can properly educate the women folk, they will make sure that they educate their children. Because educating a woman is educating all her children that are coming up from our own source. So we have to encourage the female education in this part of Nigeria, northern Nigeria. Then this issue of the Al-Majri system will be a history of a thing of the past, because they are all from the houses that are not of the people that are not properly educated. So even religious education, once you have Western education, the perception of religion that you'll have will be very much different. So I think with improvement education, we'll go over this challenge that you have raised. It's a very important challenge. It's true that issue of extremism is coming up. That's why we have Boko Haram. People coming to say that Boko is even prohibited by religion. When the religion of Islam encourage education, that you can go to China to acquire education. It did not say only religious education. Education includes understanding your society, and you cannot understand your society without knowing the language of English or French, or the concept, in mathematics or economics. You understand your society by knowing the Western education. If you acquire Western education,
I think we lost the senator's audio.
Is his picture still there?
No, we lost him completely. His audio and
I'm reaching
his,
out to his people now.
Okay. I hope people have been able to fill the assessment. We can project it again. There are actually 10 questions. My suggestion is that you scroll down to the 10th to know all the questions before you now go back to answer your priorities, so that you don't go and pop in a priority based on non-availability if it's not too late.
So there's a kink in this. So we'll modify, because we want people to select the top 3, but it's the way it's set up now is like they have to answer all. So we'll put a 4th question in against next week. But maybe you can use this opportunity to talk about the Nigerian Project Challenge so people understand what it is and why we want them to take the poll.
Well, you go ahead and talk about it.
Okay. I think, so this came from you. I mean, Pastor T is on, he authored this, and I can just speak about why we're taking the poll. ALG has this Project Nigeria Challenge as we grouped the strategy or the focus into 10 different components of how on getting to the Nigeria that we see. So we want to understand which ones we're taking first in terms of priority. That's why we're launching this poll. So Pastor T, I don't know if you want to speak more about, take a few minutes to just speak about Project Nigeria Challenge and how it's worded. I don't want to really speak for you. If you can unmute yourself.
Hello, yeah. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think, yeah, like you rightly said, the Project Nigeria Challenge, let me just give you a distinctive purpose. Is an advocate, a bold and fearless advocate to engage the citizens in targeted critical elements of nation building. The emphasis there is bold and fearless advocate. We're going to be advocating for the change that we want to see in Nigeria. We have talked, I think we need to move from talking to advocacy, and then from advocacy to action. That's the change process. And that's why it is a challenge with a change process. And the background is very clear to all of us. We have spoken much about the problems that Nigeria has. And I'm happy that the senator is consistently emphasizing on education. And you will find out as one of the challenges there is championing education, in particular, the issue of out-of-school children that has over 20 million. Actually, Nigeria tops the list in Africa in out-of-school children. And that's not a credit to us. It's a big debit and we must address it. The first challenge there, as you will see, is right leadership in Nigeria. right leadership in Nigeria. If you've had our founder and chairman, he's spoken very, very aggressively about having right leadership. And the word right there, you could also hear what the senator has said. And we have said this on ALG, that it doesn't matter what your faith is. The first call, like he said, is to fear God as best as you know within the context of your own religion and do what is right. Do what is right. And so each and every one of us must stand up to identify those who are doing right at every level of leadership. And at the same time, identify those who are doing wrong, bring them to accountability, and then we begin to see change. There is no little part in it. Everyone has a part to play in directing and delivering right leadership for Nigeria. So if you go to a place to receive a public good service or a public good product and you are treated wrongly, we're going to see how to provide avenues whereby you can report to, and then from that reporting, an action process can be taken. And then you will know that something is done. So when you go back to that public service agency again, whoever is the lead point there or focal point will know that, yes, right leadership and righteousness will exalt the nation. Well, it doesn't matter the basis of your righteousness, but right is must be and universal among all.
Pastor T, sorry to disturb. The senator is back in.
It's all right.
Okay.
Sorry, please. I had problem with the computer. We had problem with our computer.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, the line went off. We didn't know that it was not properly connected to the power, so just went off.
It's okay. It's part of the problems we're trying to solve in Nigeria.
In Nigeria,
welcome back, Senator.
The problem of power. So you're welcome. We were in question time. I think somebody, Benjamin Omeza, wants to ask a question. Benjamin, please go forward. Unmute yourself, Benjamin.
Yeah, by meeting.
Benjamin. Okay, Abiola Sapo, please. Abiola Sapo.
Please unmute yourself.
Okay. All right. Yes. Good evening, Excellency.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening,
Senator. Yes. I've heard you speak so well, but the question I want to ask is very simple.
Okay.
Are you happy with where Nigeria is today? If yes, are you happy? If no, what do we need to do beyond all what you've said? Is there a need to restructure Nigeria?
Well,
go on.
The question of restructuring Nigeria was asked for a very long time, but people have not come up to say this is the kind of restructuring they are looking for. Nobody is happy with the level of development of this country today. We are all struggling. We are a struggling nation. We are hoping that there was the election of the current leadership will come together and see how we can have improvement. Like I said, every successive government have their plus and minuses. The government of President Muhammadu Buhari has done its best in security, but we still have problem of economy. And the reason he gave one time, as I was watching his interview, was that when he came in, before he took over, the price of crude oil has gone up to beyond $100 a barrel, about $140 a barrel. But when he came in immediately, the prices crashed down to as low as $35 a barrel. But for that reason, he was faced with some challenges that account for some of the inadequacies and the problem we have seen in his government. But now, I think with the environment we have now, with the election of Asuwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his performance in Lagos, everybody has good hope. And we believe that he will come up with a team that will be put together to address some of these challenges and the problems that we have seen that we're facing today in the area of security and economy. So nobody will say I'm 100% happy, but we thank God that the government has done its best. Like I said, you will not say Buhari has not done his best, but his best may not be good enough for every one of us.
Distinguished Senator, today, should we rely only on oil, crude oil, for our revenue? Shouldn't we have a deliberate policy?
We should not. We should not. We should not. We have to diversify. We should not. We have to diversify our economy. We have to encourage the development of non-oil exports. And the only way to do it is to have a robust economic policy, and we should have fiscal and monetary policies that is geared towards development of agriculture and energy, because energy is terribly lacking in Nigeria. No industry can develop without proper energy. So I think we have to diversify, and by diversifying required an economic plan that will improve these two major sectors, energy and agriculture.
Right. Juliet, can you please ask your question very quickly? Unmute yourself, ask your question. Okay, can we go to Stephen then?
Please unmute, Juliet.
I'm talking. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Juliet, go ahead.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening, Juliet.
Okay, my question is, many people are agitating for the review of the Constitution. So I want to know what's your take on this, and do you think it is part of the restructuring? Thank you.
While review of Constitution is an ongoing process, it's going to be a continuous process until we get it right. You know, the Constitution was provided to us by the military administration. And every time we have problem, especially look at the area of local government administration. That is part of restructuring people are talking about. That it should be recognized as third tier of government. Now they are under the state governments, and the governors, in fact, some of them do not give them their resources, the revenue they are supposed to be given. So they are not doing the role they are expected to play as the closest government administration to the people. They are not providing even boreholes because they don't have the money to provide boreholes. The allocation given to them from the federal account is diverted by the governors because of the problem we have in the Constitution that places them under the purview of the state administration. So there is need for continuous adjustment and amendment of Nigerian Constitution until we get it right. It's going to be a continuous process.
All right. I don't know who TT is, but I think that person needs to, I don't know why they're showing a video on their screen. Right. Thank you, Juliet. Have you finished with the response to that question? Excellent.
Yes. Yes.
All right. We're running out of time. I'm not sure if we can take all the questions that we want, but Stephen Lawrence and Engineer Femi Olowe, please go ahead with your questions very quickly.
Okay, thank you, Pastor Itoa. It's Stephen Lawson, sir. Good evening, Senator Yarima.
Welcome, Stephen.
I want to thank you for accepting the invitation to be a guest on this premium forum. And I know you will be thrown a lot of controversial questions. And with all due respect to this platform, his host, who is one of my bosses and mentors, yourself and the participants, allow me to say that the developing democracy narrative, I think, is a very hypocritical statement of submission. We know what is right and wrong, but we choose otherwise. So I do not agree with you on that, Senator. That being said, Senator, that being said, number one, do you think Nigeria is an Islamic or Christian or traditional or secular republic? Number two, is there a strategic agenda to Islamize Nigeria in the next 40 years, sir? Number three, would you support a Christian ticket in 2027? Number four, please. The Chibok girl and the criminal murder of Deborah in Sokoto, what is your conviction about those cases? And finally, Senator Yerima, please do forgive me, but I seem to find it hard to believe you're a sincere human being. So tell me, Senator, what do I need to know or understand about you or your leadership style that can help me believe that you're a sincere person and not all these politically correct responses you have been given thus far? Thank you, Senator Yerima. God bless.
So first of all, Nigeria is neither a Muslim state or Christian state. I consider Nigeria to be a multi-religious country because we even have people who are not, who are neither Muslim or Christian. And you cannot turn Nigeria as an Islamic state because God, like I said, cannot make mistake by creating Muslim, Christian, Jews, Hindus, and others. So it's not good for any person to start thinking that he can, unless you can kill everybody, and you will go to America and say you want to make it an Islamic state, or you go to UK, or you go to Russia, or you go to China, who do not believe in any religion. So I'm sure Nigeria, as constitution recognized, is a multi-religious country. And secondly, I believe that Christian ticket or Muslim ticket is not determined by individuals in Nigeria. Whether I like it or not, if my party adopt candidates that are of same faith, Christian faith or Muslim faith, as a member of that party, if I believe in the candidates, I'll make sure I work for the success of those candidates. So it is the political party that to determine who run election in a particular political party. It's not individuals in Nigeria, because democracy is about political system. And what I can only tell you about myself is that I believe as a Nigerian, I have served this country in various capacity. I have served the Minister. I started with Minister of Finance, went to National Director of Employment as Chief Research Officer, then moved to Central Bank of Nigeria as Assistant Manager, and then joined politics and become the Governor of Zamfara State, and later a Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for 3 consecutive terms. And the issue of Chibok girl, that is the issue of Boko Haram, which I think is being addressed by the government of Borno State and the federal government. And the person that was killed in Sokoto State, it's not an issue of tax, and you cannot do anything about it. It is the function and the responsibility of that government. When I was governor, there was not a single fly that was killed because of religion or because of its religious background. So if you have credible leadership, you will have solve problem of both religious extremism and thuggery. I hope I answered your question, Stephen.
Stephen, are you satisfied, or do you have any other?
Is there anything I didn't touch?
Well, Senator, I was hoping for a yes or no answer, sir. Will you support a Christian ticket?
Of course, yes. If my party, like I told you, if my party come up with a Christian ticket, I will support that ticket. I assure you.
And Senator, is there, for the record, is there an Islamic agenda to Islamize Nigeria in the next?
I don't know
years?
About
because right now,
such agenda.
no, Senator, please.
Yes.
Please, with all due respect, there
I'm
is a
telling you,
bill
between me and
that has
God,
passed-
see, as an individual, I don't know the minds of
there-
other people. But as a Nigerian, I have not seen any agenda. I have not
Senator
participated.
Yerima, you are being you are
Hello?
being politically correct, sir. There's a bill in the House right now to
Yes.
regulate Christianity in Nigeria.
Is it sponsored by a Muslim?
There's a bill in what house?
In the National Assembly, he said.
To do what?
To regulate the Christian faith. I don't know, but I think it's not sponsored by a Muslim. I don't think any Muslim will dare sponsor a bill to regulate Christian faith. It must be sponsored by a Christian, I think.
All right, no problem.
Yeah, it's actually sponsored by a Christian. You're correct.
Oh, that's it. So he's not
Yeah,
Islamizing Nigeria.
From
Will a
Plateau
Christian
State, yeah.
Islamize
A
Nigeria?
Christian from Plateau State. I would like to know who that Christian is. Sonny, you had a question you wanted to ask?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good evening, Senator.
Good evening.
There are two critical areas we haven't spoken about, especially as it relates to Zamfara State.
Okay.
You have repeatedly mentioned education, and thank you for talking about education that much.
Yes.
The statistics show that Zamfara State has one of the highest out-of-school children in Nigeria.
Yeah.
It's also one of the leading states in poverty in
Yes.
Nigeria.
Yes.
But going to education, and you spoke copiously about the girl education.
Yeah.
I want to ask you two questions.
Yeah.
One is, it's rumored and we heard, you support the bill for girl children to be married off early. And they said you married a 13-year-old. This is the opportunity to clear the air.
Yeah.
Did you actually marry a 13-year-old? And what do you say? Do you support the girl child to go to school up to a certain age before they can be married, whether in Zamfara State or across Nigeria?
Well, first of all, I didn't marry a 13-year-old girl. Secondly,
Okay.
it was not political. Secondly, my wife, one of my wives, I have 4 wives, one of them is a medical doctor. And all my children, girl children, are in school. I have doctors that have graduated. I have a daughter that is just married. She graduated from Dubai with petrochemical engineering degree. And I now currently have students in Dubai, girls. And as I told you earlier, as I mentioned earlier, I created female focal primary schools and created the first female education board in Zamfara State during my time. And go and check record. 1999-2007, the enrollment of girl child in Zamfara State has more than tripled during my period. So that is all I can tell you. I am a supporter of female education because I believe educating female girl child is educating society, because the children that they are going to come up with will also be, they will make sure that they have also gone to school. So there is
thank you very much,
no reason
Senator.
why girls should not go to school.
Fantastic. So would you support a bill that will say that, because that bill that when you were in the National Assembly was also coming up, and where they were equating young girls, if you got married, you could be treated as an adult.
Oh,
It doesn't
definitely.
matter what age you are.
You see, we don't even need law to ensure that once we ensure that girls provide a level environment for girl child to be educated to university level, you don't need a law to stop them from getting married. Because once you send your girls to school, none of my daughter got married at the age of less than 20 years, because they all are graduates. I don't have a girl that is married. I have many children, and they have all graduated before they got married.
All right, thank you. The second question, the second part is about the gold in Zamfara State, which is at the root.
What?
The illegal gold mining in Zamfara State.
You see, yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
There is,
and they say the politicians are in charge. You know, they are making a huge fortune out of it, and that all of
you see,
you
they
are
are all
involved in it.
overbloating this information. There is nothing like serious illegal gold mining in Zamfara. They are associating the issue of banditry to illegal gold mining.
Yes.
But the illegal gold mining in Zamfara is like any other part of Nigeria. It's not that much that will attract all the comments that people are making.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's leave it there.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you
I'm
very
told
much.
that you are fasting and you'd like to please go and break your fast.
Thank you very much.
We would like to respect that. But my second vice president, Jumoke, has 1 or 2 words, and then she will round off and allow you to go. I'm sorry, we cannot take the other questions so that we can allow you to go and break your fast.
Thank you very
so,
much.
Jumoke, just round up, take a couple of questions, round up, and then maybe we'll have Senator back on this program. He'll give us another date.
Anytime.
Where we can ask him a lot more questions.
I'm very happy participating. Thank you very much for the honor. I see it as an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So my question is really about rebuilding the Northeast and the Northwest that has been ravaged by banditry and the citizens in IDP camp. You talk about APC government and the plans to come in, but I haven't heard anything about these citizens that have been living in camp, that their lives have been destroyed and their communities destroyed. There is no talk of rebuilding. And in the words of Gandhi, a country is, or a nation is only as strong as its weakest citizens. And this is an area of concern for us because there is no discussion whatsoever on, resettling those in IDP camp. And if the figures from the UN and other international organizations, I know it's quite low. It's putting IDP number at about 2 or 3 million, but I'm sure it's much more than that. Areas in the Northeast and the Northwest have really been destroyed, and there is no talk of rebuilding the society. How would you speak to that, especially being that you were the former governor of Zamfara, and I know how ravished Zamfara is? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you see, it's part of the agenda of the current elected president, the security agenda. You see, the security agenda is encompassing, all encompassing. It has to include the social welfare of those people who are displaced. And this Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs is doing everything possible to ensure that they resettle those people who are displaced. And so far, so good. And I'm sure the incoming administration will come up with a robust plan to address the challenges. Because, like in the Northeast, we have Northeast Development Commission already. And I'm sure they have to do something in the Northwest because it has been affected seriously by the issue of banditry. And in fact, just last month, there were, attacks where over 95 people of a small village were taken away to the bush. And they only released about 75 of them. 70 of them. 25 of them are still away, and they destroyed their houses and other places. So I think it's a very big challenge that the incoming administration will have to look at and come out with areas of address, how to address those challenges. It's a very good observation, actually.
Yeah, I just have one more follow-up question. And yes. I'm happy you've talked about the Western education, but do you believe that the introduction of Sharia law into Nigeria may have emboldened Boko Haram, who believes that Western education, for example, is a sin? And we've seen that over the past, during the past 8 years, the works of the Boko Haram and other Islamic extremists, and I'm using the word Islamic extremists, have really heightened could the introduction of Sharia law be a tool that has really pushed or promoted or empowered them to do what they're doing in the region?
No, you see, the advantage of introducing Sharia in Zamfara and the benefit had been eradication of religious extremism in that part of the country. Before the introduction of the Sharia in Zamfara, people were agitating for it in the whole north. But with the education level attained, with the empowerment of people through the introduction of Sharia, people now believe in the north that they have Sharia. And the Christian believe that they can live with the Sharia, the kind of Sharia system we adopted. So at least the benefit of introduction of Sharia far outweighed the disadvantage. Of course, initially, people did not understand what the Sharia is all about. But I'm sure now, those people who live in the part of the north now know that Sharia has nothing to do with them. In fact, Sharia is against extremism and fundamentalism in religion.
Thank you for
All right.
answering those questions. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Senator. We'll let you go now, but I think you should speak out a bit more, because down south or in some places, most people look at you as that governor that brought about Sharia,
yes,
that cut off somebody's hand, that married a 13-year-old girl.
Yes.
You know, that's the reputation you have earned for yourself. And I think you should work a bit hard to either dispel that reputation or let people know what you really stand for. You know,
you see, this kind of program is the best way to educate and reduce the impact of those activities, because you see, I participate in the Hard Talk with the BBC. I've been in Voice of America, CNN, all other international community media houses. But this kind of interaction that is made online will make a lot of people understand what I have done in the past. And gradually, I'm sure, I think people understand the advantage and benefits of all the things that I've done. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. We'll take that as your closing comments, except if you have any other thing to say.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
We'll be in touch and we'll try and see each other as soon as possible. And if you do come to Lagos, let me know. All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Jumoke, Sonny, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. We have a couple of announcements. Pastor Sonny, I don't know if you want to go and talk about the orientation coming up.
Please talk about it.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. We've gotten quite a lot of responses from people that are interested in engaging ALG. And so we feel it's important to have like an orientation program to introduce you more into what we're doing beyond the NLS platform every Thursday. Pastor and Pastor Tayo talked about the Project Nigeria Challenge, which is our focus. It's part of the vision for ALG, and we've broken it into 10 components that Pastor T will probably be speaking more on the orientation date. I think we have it scheduled now for May 9th, right, Pastor Sonny? At 6 p.m. Nigerian time. And that is 10 p.m. Pacific time and 1 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll be sending out the invitation. And we expect those that are really interested in engaging on the organization to please be a part of it. You learn more about the mission, the vision of the organization, and just the core values and what the organization represents and what we're trying to do with this Project Nigeria Challenge. So please, and there's also a form in the chat room that I just posted. We ask that you please fill that. If you're interested in engaging, ALG will send you more information. You'll get this notices for these programs every Thursday and other initiatives that we're working on. Mr. Chairman also spoke about upcoming peace dialogue that we are in collaboration with our sister organization, Rebuild Nigeria Initiative, whose focus is on peace and reconciliation dialogue. So that will be rolling that out in May. We're looking for other organizations that are in the peace space as well that will come on board with us to implement this discussion on peace. So that's all I have. Over to you, Pastor Sonny.
Thank you very much. I guess you've pretty much said it all. Tuesday 9th is the date for the orientation. And that's it. Thanks very much.
All right, very good. Thank you everyone for being on the platform. I just want to thank especially my Aburo, Honorable Kende Bankole, who made this connection possible. If he's there online, I give him a shout out and I thank him very much. I want to thank everybody, Senior VP Sonny Enebi, enjoying life in Ireland. Are you going to the coronation with the coronation stone? I'm sure you will carry that coronation stone to that place.
There's a lot of tradition behind those guys, so it's okay.
We need to find out about that coronation stone and the chains on it. And then Jumoke, thank you very much as always. Like you said, that's our questionnaire. We have to sort of revamp it a bit more. We need to see all the options on the this thing, and maybe we need to increase to first 5 or first 6 or whatever it is. You know, it was it was a struggle to try and answer it, so we have to repeat that. Thank you very much. I want to thank everyone for being on the platform. A few people initially were a bit anxious that, why are we bringing Senator Yerima? But this is ALG, this is Nigeria. We're not biased in any way, shape, or form. And let anybody not think that we represent any interest at all. Every Nigerian, regardless of creed, belief, whatever, is entitled to be heard. You know, one of the challenges of Nigeria is that we don't hear each other appropriately enough. We're all entitled to be heard, and we're all going to listen to one another and see where wisdom comes from to solve the problems of Nigeria. I want to thank everyone very, very much for coming, and we'll be back same time next week, depending on the time zone that you're at, to have yet another enlightening session. So thank you all. Have a good rest of the evening and a very, very great weekend ahead. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night.